whatever business you're in, whatever space you're in, especially for TA folks, like really take some time and focus on learning the business, right? Learning the business inside and out. And I think this is a really important thing for TA people.
You can make a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? You can. But talk to everyone out there. How hard is it to cut your teeth and really be successful in the world of being a sports agent? What's the real shit, man?
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast where I bring in the best and the brightest from the world of talent, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Steve White. He is the Vice President of Talent Acquisition at BECU, where he focuses on transformative leadership, fostering a culture of excellence, and building strong partnerships. With a career dedicated to transforming talent acquisition teams, Steve is passionate about leading with intention and ensuring teams are built to thrive now and in the future. His approach emphasizes the 3 R's: building relationships, delivering transformational results, and improving readiness to enhance business. We have a lot to get into. We're going to unpack his background, and we're going to talk all things talent and his career. Steve White, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate being here, man. Super excited to have the conversation. So looking forward to it on this beautiful day. So
I love it. Where's home for you? Where are we talking to Steve White today?
So I live in Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I always respond to that question in that way because I grew up in Southern California, and I still feel like Southern California is home, even though sooner than later, within the next 7 years, I would have spent more time outside of the state of California than in it. So.
Oh, man, Southern Cal, man. Love it. It's a special spot. I'm born and raised in New York. I've never lived outside of New York State, whether it be New York City, Buffalo, Long Island. And I'm kind of itching. It's funny, interesting. We'll sidebar on that one, but I think might be, but here's the deal, man.
Yeah.
You're in talent. I'm in talent. Most of us fall into it. We fall into it. We pushed into it.
Yep.
What's your story, man? How'd you get into this world of talent?
So I started off my career as a sports agent, right? So I was recruiting athletes, right, making the transition from college football to the NFL. So I did that for several years, and it's pretty taxing, right, on the life and the family. And so chasing athletes all over the place, and I loved it, right? My goal and my dream was really to be a general manager of an NFL team. That's what I wanted to do. That was the ultimate goal. Missed that, needless to say, but did fall into this talent acquisition space because of it. I enjoyed the chase, right? I enjoyed the recruitment plans and things like that, which is what I was doing for the agency that I was working for. And so I went into staffing right after leaving the sports management firm. And staffing was wild. It was definitely a chase. It was a crazy grind. I went from one set of crazy to another.
Trading one crazy for another crazy, right?
Absolutely. But it's been a fun ride since. So
let's pause here because we need to hit that rewind button, right? So you're obviously a sports fan. You have this dream of being a general manager. You think the path to that is being an agent. That part's grueling, right? Because people watch like Entourage or what's the one with The Rock? What the hell's it called? You know, the one.
Ballers.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of agents out there, and yes, you have to take to license, there's an exam, to all that kind of stuff. You have to know the legalese, the financial elements of the ethics, the codes, and everything.
Absolutely.
But like, just kind of like jobs too, like what you see out there on TV and glamorize, that's a small percentage. Like, yes, you can make a lot of money, right? You can, but talk to everyone out there. How hard is it to cut your teeth and really be successful in the world of being a sports agent? What's the real shit, man?
It is a grind. Like when you think about like football, right? Which is, I was in the space of football. There were Tom Condon, who was, he works for Creative Arts Agency, which is the biggest sports management firm in the country now. You had Lee Steinberg, who was the original agent, who much of Jerry Maguire was.
Podcast alumni, man. Early guest on the show. I had Lee on the show. I'll send you that link afterwards. Legend.
Lee's amazing, man. Lee's amazing. And
Southern Cal guy, right? Southern Cal guy?
He is. Orange County, Southern Cal. Him and his partner at one point in time, David Dunn, were super agents right in the business and did some great work. And he's, he represented Steve Young. He represents Patrick Mahomes now, right? So I
He
mean, Jerry
found Patrick
Maguire.
Mahomes. Yeah, he like found him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he found. Yeah, because Patrick Mahomes, between Lee and like Andy Reid, were the only two people who really felt like that. Like he was a real player and a real viable quarterback in the league. So, but Lee's a great talent evaluator, was a phenomenal agent. I read Winning with Integrity early on, his
Mhm.
book. And then, of course, Drew Rosenhaus and his brother
Of course.
Jason, who run Rosenhaus Sports, and he wrote a book called A Shark Never Sleeps, and he's represented a bunch of guys and has become famous. Those are the guys who really run. They've run football for so long. You get everybody else who kind of piecemeal here and there. It's a grind, and because you have these high expectations of the players or from the players, right? That you're going to be able to give them all this money and cars and all these things up front. And then whomever, it's a copycat league. And then it also spills over into the agent business, right? So a lot of that copycat sort of things where players and their parents oftentimes want to then, point to, who's the hottest guy coming into the NFL, right? Or who's the hottest rookie recently. So I worked for a firm and we represented Marcus Pollard, who played for the Indianapolis Colts at one point. And so, at the time we were recruiting a guy named Mercedes Lewis, who played about almost 20 years in the league, right? He played for Green Bay. He played for Jacksonville Jaguars, Green Bay, and then most recently with the Chicago Bears. And so we're I'm trying to leverage, us representing Marcus Pollard to recruit Mercedes. And my grandmother had taught Mercedes in elementary school. So
you were playing the grandma card.
Everything I could, man.
Right, because you got to play everything you card. You got every card in the hand, man.
Yeah, we knew he was going to be a first round draft choice, right? He blocked really well. He was a great pass catching tight end. He was a two sports star, at UCLA, playing basketball and football. And so I'm like, all right, we're going to leverage this to kind of pull him in. And I remember his mom asking me a question, and she was like, well, I'm explaining to her, the type of contract Marcus Pollard was on. And his mom is like, well, is that the same as that kid who got hurt on the motorcycle, all those years ago? Or not, now just recently, it was Kellen Winslow Jr., right? And I'm like, oh, Kellen Winslow Jr. is playing on a rookie deal, which at the time, what you would do with a rookie deal is just take the rookie deal and then just plus up 8% over the same draft pick of the previous year, right? So it's a real simple formula for rookies than it is for veterans.
Right.
Veterans is where, veteran contracts is where the real complexity comes in,
That's
where
right,
the real money starts to happen. And so I was like, that makes it tough too, right? The parents' opinions, their understanding of the game or lack thereof. And so it makes it really,
right. They
really
think they're just getting rich. My kid made it. They made it rich. And think about football too, right? Like the sheer volume and roster of an NFL team plus practice squad, right? Like there's a lot of players on the team, and that rookie salary, the practice squad salary, there's football players out there that aren't making a ton of money, right? Yeah. Like not everyone's rich.
No, but back when I was in the business, practice squad guys were making like $85K a year.
Yeah, that's not a lot,
right? You talk about, I've got a daughter that's in college, and she's like, I want to come out of college making $175K a year. It's like, okay, well, so you look at that and the expectations that these kids have now, even coming out of college into what we consider to be regular jobs. And then you got these guys who are playing in the NFL who are, making, $85K on a practice squad. And it's very different than a guy who's driving a Lamborghini making
exactly. Right. Like even if you look at like baseball, you look like Juan Soto versus a guy catching the bullpen, right? Like the disparity there. But I want to dig it. Let's here's where we get deep, man. Here's where we're gonna go deeper. Yeah. Take us to that moment, that consideration point when you hung it up, when you made the choice and said, you know what, I gave this a shot. I gave, and you had to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
We've been through it. I've been through it. Everyone knows my story. I told you my story. Like, but when you're like, all right, I am like, were you down on yourself? Like, what did that feel like, man? This is the good stuff. This is the stuff we're talking about. This is good stuff.
It was depressing, man. It was depressing. I went through 2 years of not being able to watch football, right? And I would watch football all the time, right? Eat, sleep, and breathe. And I haven't been able to watch football the same since, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Right? And some of it is because it's not my job, but much of it, like, I enjoyed watching it too. And so I don't enjoy watching it as much as I used to, because having to remove myself from it was really a depressing time. It was tough. I went through it. And so, like, the moments of leading up to it, I've gotten married. I thought I made a really smart decision, Adam, right, to get married on April 30th of 2005, right? So I'm coming up on 20 years of being married. Thank goodness for my wife. She's a much
man.
better person than I am.
I got 15 tomorrow. Tomorrow's our 15th.
Congrats,
Tomorrow,
congrats.
March 13th, whenever this airs. Tomorrow, March 13th. Yep.
Congrats, man. That is awesome. So we got married April 30th, 2005. And I did that because the draft was usually the third weekend in April. Right. And so I'm like, you send the guys off to rookie mini camp, you got a little bit of a break. So I'm like, this is perfect. The NFL in 2006 had this bright idea to move the draft back to the fourth weekend in April, which our wedding anniversary ended up landing on Sunday. Right. And that was back when the draft happened it was 2 days. Now it happens over 3 days. And so it was Saturday and Sunday. You'd have the really long Saturday and then an even a long day on Sunday, right? You have rounds 4 through 7 or whatever it was on Sunday, rounds through 1 through 3 on Saturday. And so I missed my wife and my first wedding anniversary.
Oops.
That was a big oops, man. So
my bad.
I missed big time there. And then fast forward a little bit from there, she ended up being pregnant with our second child. And she's 9 months or eight and a half months pregnant. I'm in Hawaii, right, at the Hula Bowl when they had the Hula Bowl still. And I'm taking guys out to dinner at the Cheesecake Factory because I'm super classy.
Right. I mean, they got good cheesecake there. I hear the salads are fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right. So, and she's freaking out, right? She's going to the hospital while I'm out in Hawaii and, 6 hours, 5.5, 6 hours away from home. And then I'm in Fresno the next week, right? Because we had a guy at Fresno State at the time. And so there was a lot happening during that time frame. And so it became super taxing. And to your point, I wasn't making the type of money that I had envisioned making long term. And so I had to make some decisions, right? Like, am I going to sacrifice my family on the altar of success? Or am I going to, make some decisions on whether or not I can pivot, do something that, that would really suit my family really well, that I could still enjoy, but then be there for them, connect with them and cultivate the life that we wanted to live there too. So at home.
Did you feel that? Why did you feel that you were not going to be successful? Was it a comparison game? What was it? What was that decision tree, man?
So it was less about not being successful because I felt like I would have hit it. It was more of like, to be honest with you, Adam, like, I'm not going to be able to give this up once we hit, a certain level. Right. And so then at that point in time, it would have been like a drug. And then I would have sacrificed my family more for my career. And I didn't want to do that. Right. I wanted to create some level of balance.
That is a tremendous decision, man. And at the time, was your wife encouraging you to stick with it? Or was she like, all right, Steve, thank you? How'd that go?
She's been super supportive, right, in every step that I've taken in my career. So she's never said, hey, you need to make this decision and given me an ultimatum. So she was supportive of the career. I looked at it and I saw some of the stress that she was going through with those, kind of birth scares and some of the other things that were going on. And I was like, you know what? She didn't sign up to walk through this by herself. Right. And so I had to make a decision right there. And she's smarter than I am. She's much better. Like, I'm
always pro tip, marry smarter and hotter, but punching above your weight. I did, of course. My wife running circles around me, man. And then you look in the mirror, you're like, why'd they choose us? Why? Yeah. What did we got going on here? And then they make you feel. Now here comes the real question, man.
Yep.
It's gonna be a tough one. I'm telling you. Give me a second here. Do you regret it? Do you play what if in your head?
I don't regret it. But there have been moments where Taj, my wife, she's even come to me and said, like, hey, would you go back and do that again? Like, would you make the same decision? Like, we've had those conversations and I made the right decision, right? Prioritizing my family over the career. Where I've thought about certain things is could I have done it differently? Right. And sometimes I think, like, if I would have represented coaches instead of players, it probably would have been a bit less taxing. The players are demanding, man. Very demanding. People like to call some football players divas. I remember one situation, we were just talking about this about 2 weeks ago, where there was a guy we were representing. He was a marginal player. He wasn't a phenomenal guy. He was at West Texas A&M. And he called me at like 3:30 a.m. one morning. and was like, hey, man, he was getting ready to go to a workout for pre-draft workout. And he was like, hey, I need a Mercedes. I was like, this is not a 3:30 a.m. conversation. Like, nor do you need a Mercedes,
You
right?
don't
Like, so
need a Mercedes. You would like, let's rephrase that. You'd like to have a Mercedes. Yes.
right. So those two things, like that I don't miss that, right? And I never have really missed that. I remember we were about to represent, or we had gone through and we were recruiting heavily this guy. He played running back for Oregon. He was a starting running back for Oregon for about 3 years, and he had his attorney run his recruitment. And
Proxy.
yeah, he totally right. And so I remember laying out Adam the best pre-draft process for him. That, I mean, it was killer. It was amazing. It was well laid out. It was well thought out. It was very strategic, and it really played to his strengths. And I remember telling his attorney that, I'm like, he's going to run a 4.8 at the combine. So he does not need to run at the combine. Let him run on the fast track at Oregon. But if he runs at the combine, it's going to kill his draft status.
Yeah, it's going to be slow.
His attorney was pissed at me and then decided, we're not going to go with you guys for that reason. Now, fast forward about 2 years later, I'm out of the business and he calls me. My wife is giving birth to our third kid and we're literally in the hospital. He calls me like, hey, such and such needs, new representation. Are you available? I'm like, sure. So he ran a 4.78 at the combine. He ran slow, as slow as I expected him to. And then, he didn't get drafted, right? Which he should have been at least a third round draft choice.
What I'm hearing here, though, and now we're gonna bring it back to center and current day, is you have an innate ability to assess talent, the ability to communicate with it, to manage the process. And it's so funny we're saying this. You had the transferable skills to become a recruiter, right? Right, Steve? It's like you had the transferable skills to become a recruiter. So now you're in staffing. This whole world is opening up to you. Were there things you were trying to apply early on, like your knowledge of, like, from process of sports recruitment into professional, white collar recruitment that weren't quite working?
You know what? I think there are some things, right? Like, but so much of the work is interchangeable, right? And so, like, connecting, building relationships, considering what the goals of the business that we're recruiting for. So I was in staffing, but we had clients. And so really digging in with the clients and understanding what the goals of the client's business, was or what they are was very important. Right. So I was able to pull that over from, sports and bring that into staffing. And so I feel like there's a lot of overlap, right? And a lot of things that are interchangeable in the two spaces where, teams create draft boards based on their needs, right? So, and then their needs are based on, how they're trying to set themselves up to win, whether it be a division, the conference, and of course, ultimately the Super Bowl, right? And so really thinking about like what's best for the business, right? And then how do I position this particular person for that? And so like in staffing, we would skill market talent, right, to a business, and people call it different things, but you take, a candidate's profile and you work towards selling that candidate to the business to help them understand like how this individual is going to help close a gap. And then, essentially, make that business better, more profitable or what have you. And so it's the same thing in sports. And so just using some of those same philosophies and bringing them over. So there wasn't much, right? I think the mentality, the attitude, the long sort of recruitment cycle.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities here. Your career has been centered around this idea of transformative leadership, right? What are some of the core foundations there? People throw that around buzzwords. Yeah. Transformational, transformative, transforming. We're changing things. What needs to change in specifically around TA? And I went out there. Yeah. I don't like to call it talent acquisition. I call it talent access. We're not acquiring people. Like that. We're giving them access to an opportunity. Like I work in talent access. You work in talent access. We are the conduit, Steve, between opportunity and talent. We're the access point. I've adopted that, so feel free to steal it, man.
I will steal that because I love that. And I think, you can't buy people, right? You can, but it should be, it's illegal in most places.
It's kind of sports. That's another thing too. We could, we're not going to go down that road, man. Not on this show.
it's a tricky topic for sure. So
Yeah.
so I love that talent access over talent acquisition for sure. And just thinking about like the way I think about leadership is really focused on like you mentioned it earlier. I mean, relationships, results, readiness. I think about that across the board. But culture is such a big part of leadership and transformation. And there was a study done by a leadership organization ran by a guy named Mark Miller, who used to run culture at Chick-fil-A. And Mark Miller had done this study, and he talked about how about 70% of leaders consider culture to be the most important thing to run an organization or for an organization's success and profitability. However, those same leaders rank culture as number 12 on their list of priorities.
Seems like a conflict of interest.
It totally a conflict of interest in prioritization, right? So it's like, hey, this thing is really important, but we're going to deprioritize it right at number 12. We're going to put a bunch of things that we say are not nearly as important to our profit and success well above it.
There's something we need to do before we continue this conversation here. Yeah. Steve, how do you define culture?
I define culture as a way very, very similar to, and I've taken this from Culture Partners. Culture Partners is a great organization who's actually helped my team really improve our culture. But they define culture, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, which is why I'm going to repeat it, is the way an organization thinks and acts, right, collectively. And so my team, we have really focused on thinking and acting in a way that is, that has synergy, that is consistent, that is aligned. We focus on, we have cultural beliefs, right, that we focus on, we look at, we actually discuss in every single meeting. So Adam, we open up every meeting with our cultural beliefs. And we've got 4 cultural beliefs in talent acquisition. It's always improve, own it, growth mindset, drive excellence.
I love
We've
them.
got definitions around each of the 4, right?
I like
that really
those.
focus on like, how do we make this happen? Because we exist to add value to the organization and the shareholders of the organization that we work
Of course.
as talent access professionals.
There you go. You'll change your vernacular. So how does that translate in the interview process when you're training your hiring managers to interview? How do you get to that part of somebody's core during an interview? What does that training look like? What does that line of questioning look like?
Yeah. So we start off with the recruitment strategy meeting, right? With the hiring leader, right? That very first meeting that some people call an intake, that I'm like, please, we need to stop calling it an intake. I know so many people say it. John Vlastelica has said
I don't get hung up on that word. The word I get hung up on is culture fit. I hate culture fit. People know
culture fit is a problem. It is.
Fit means everyone's looking and sounding the same mindset, look, way biased. But anyway, back to the values. All right, now we're here on the intake.
No, you're right. Culture fit encourages affinity bias. You're so right about that. So we definitely need to stop using that word and that phrase.
Just hire me as a consultant. I'll come in. I'll change everything in there. I'll come in and wreck house, man.
I love it.
It's not access. It's not acquisition. It's access. Pay me.
Right.
Give me my fee. That's what I'm doing. That's my new move.
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail already.
Thank you, BEC.
I'm the first up to pay you on that.
Thank you. Get me in there. Get me in there as a vendor. Here we go.
So we start with the recruitment strategy meeting, right? Having that conversation with leaders, really focusing on strategic level questions to talk about like, what's important here? What do you think? I mean, why is this position open? Not like, why did someone vacate the role or some other things, but what's the business purpose of this role? Right? Why does this role exist in our business? And then, really digging in and understanding other aspects of the business. What are the top line organizational priorities? What are the organizational priorities of this function or division? And then how does this position contribute to those? Right. And so really figuring out those things and then working with the leader to help craft those questions, right, through that conversation, how we craft I've got a mentor who calls a phone screen. He doesn't call it a phone screen. He calls it a diagnostic interview, right? To understand the pain points of the candidate.
You got to check your vitals.
You're checking the vitals. That's exactly what it is.
I got to take your temperature.
Absolutely. And so, so really digging into those things So we're taking that. And last year in 2024, we implemented at BECU what we call the BECU interview model, right? Which really focuses on culture add versus culture fit.
I like that.
Which really focuses on, us interviewing based on, what the need of the role is, what the competencies are, how does that contribute to the top line of the organization. And we've been training our leaders around that and really building that philosophy to ensure that we're going well beyond just the standard, scattered interview to really a structured interview that focuses on making strategic hires for the organization who are going to help move the needle right toward our goal, which at BECU, the focus is to help our members achieve financial freedom. So every single role that we hire in an organization should be focused on, like, how is this person going to help, in this way help our members achieve financial freedom.
So how do you in that team alignment, how do you work with the hiring managers to really understand, that immediate hiring need? We need somebody for these tactical skills, these hard skills versus this long-term business need and strategy. Like, because there's that's a tough one, right? Like, hey, we need somebody for this. Are they going to be there for the long term? We see this person staying with the organization. How does that role develop? What does it grow into?
Yeah, we start by framing that conversation, right? Before the recruitment strategy meeting, we start by, sharing some questions with the leader and then sharing some information about what the purpose of the meeting is, and then framing some of that information, shaping that conversation around the broader business strategy rather than just a myopic or being myopically focused on that individual role. Leaders have, a vested interest in, the role that they're focused on because, that's going to make them successful, which is going to, help their bonus and their team, their performance, their growth. And so, it's hard to move people off of that mark, but really getting people to think like, hey, if we focus on these broader business goals and we can impact these things, all of those things are going to happen, right? They're going to be a helpful and natural byproduct of that. Now we start with, again, framing the conversation with an email and then going into that conversation and starting the conversation with setting that expectation, really focusing on the broader business goals, and then asking questions that are not focused on skills, but are focused on, how this role will impact the bottom line, how this role will impact our top line priorities and those sorts of things. And then skills come later in the conversation. So that way the leader isn't just so narrowly focused on, I need to fill this role, I need to put a butt in a seat. It's like, no, how are we impacting the business through this hire?
Hey everybody, Adam here from the podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you can learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. I haven't had real shop talk on here in a bunch of episodes. I'm glad we're having this conversation here because I want to get real nerdy, right? Let's get a little nerdy on the podcast here. And I want to talk about metrics. Okay. And there's some interesting ones. I want to kind of get your hot take and a long take on things like time to fill and cost per hire. Those are tough ones. How do you look at those two?
Time to fill makes me want to vomit. Because I mean, I get that there are some purpose in time to fill, but there are so many variables, right, related to time to fill. So if we look at time to fill in aggregate, it's going to change from a contact center rep or, a manufacturing, for some organization, somebody who may be like a picker packer to an executive, right? Or to a complex software engineer or an AI software engineer, right? So there are so many different variables as it relates to time to hire, time to fill that, it's very, very challenging to really measure that in the way that makes it a meaningful metric for the organization. I think it's a watch item.
It's like if you look at a sports analogy, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but it's like a sports analogy. It's one of those kind of outlier stats you're looking at more from like a framework. But time to hire has so many X factors that are out of your control.
Sure.
You want to factor in the hiring manager not being responsive, poor market, misalignment on salary. I mean, I could go on and on of things that affect time to hire.
How long
seasonality?
the candidates work seasonality, right? The candidates working, so their interview availability
calibration,
may not be
salary
great.
calibration, even
Yeah.
market. I mean, we could list them forever.
We could go on and on and on.
Well,
So time to hire. I think one thing, I really want to nail down is really focusing on things like time of vacancy and
yes.
time to productivity. Time to productivity is a measure.
What is that?
It's thinking about going from time of vacancy, the time the role is of course open, the seat opens up, the leader realizes that they have a need, to the time
That's
an
important.
individual is actually productive in the role. Right.
That is a critical stat, because that affects everyone in the organization. When people either attrition or people getting let go, you have other people doing 2 or 3 times the work, and that's affecting their job and their life, and they could be on the way out too and say, screw this, I'm out.
Absolutely.
That's a major data point. That could go red, green, like if you have it properly calibrated.
That's one that I think, from a talent acquisition perspective, we need to be focused on, we need to be driving, because then we could say, like, from the time the seat was empty to the time the individual was productive is X amount of days, right?
Yeah.
And then we can share that information, because leaders care about that. They can care less about time to fill, right? Open or vacant to accept. Like, that's a metric that really, it like you said, it's out of our control as TA professionals, but it's only one that most of the time we care about, right?
Exactly.
From a TA standpoint, because it's like, okay, this is when we say we need to cross the finish line. We're good to go. We're washing our hands. We're moving on to the next rep.
I got one for you. Here's another freebie. Next one I'm charging you for. Let's do a sports analogy here. I've been kind of playing around with this idea. I'm a baseball guy. I love football. For me, it's baseball, football, hockey, basketball, right? But for me, best tournament in sports starts next week. NCAA tournament basketball. I love March, because it's like the underdogs, the Cinderellas, right? Like, I love it. Like, it's just, and it's pure, it's action, and the games are quick, right? Anyway, I digress. Here's the metric.
I'm with you.
I want to pick up this baseball stat called WAR, wins over replacement, right? And it kind of works better with like a sales-oriented role, where you actually have hard numbers to say, all right, we let Adam go and we hired Steve for this sales role. Yeah. Let's see how Steve's doing 1 year into the role, win over the replacement. Let's see if he's putting up better numbers than the guy we let go. That's it's another way to kind of look at like productivity, but it works better for sales, where you have real quantifiable stats.
Yeah.
Like, a hard thing is like marketing, or like more of a subjective role, like accounting. Yeah. How many mistakes did Adam make versus Steve in accounting, right? Right. Like, that's a hard number to look at. That's a very hard number. Like, how much better was employee A over employee B that we got let go?
Absolutely.
Did we make the right hire? Win over replacement. And I was like, that could work. It's It
absolutely. I mean, so many organizations have sales components, right? Sales functions that I think that is an important one to measure in those sorts of areas. I think it's something that certainly can be measured in talent acquisition, talent access, right?
Access. You'll get there. Man. We're only a few minutes into this transformation, this transformative business mindset. We're going to get there. So I want to keep it moving here, and I want to get into Steve White's 3 R's: relationships, results, and readiness. And you built your entire approach around it, right? Let's break it down. It down. Successful function. Let's start with relationships.
Yeah. So I remember when I was leading a team, there was a when I was at Lockheed, I had a person on my team who said, you got this all backwards, Steve. He's like, it should be results, then relationships. And I said, results without a relationship is just a transaction.
Right.
Like, you're no different than the person you got coffee from at Starbucks this morning. And you should be adding value to the leaders that you're working with. Right. And oftentimes we do take this customer, vendor, customer supplier sort of approach in talent acquisition, and it's wrong, right? Like, hiring leaders are our partners. They're our partners. And so we should be looking to build deep relationships with them, embedding ourselves in the business, connecting, understanding, digging in, discovering. And so knowing, we should know so much about the leaders we're partnering with. We should know everything we can about their organizations, their teams, their pain points, their hurts, what's important to them, what keeps them up at night, the cliche question, like those sorts of things. We need to know those things so that we can actually make an impact. Without like the relationship, also, I always say relationship opens the door for healthy conflict.
Yes.
And so sometimes we want to have a tough conversation with someone without having a relationship with them. And for most people, that's darn near impossible. And even for the people who feel comfortable with engaging in conflict, it won't be effective without the relationship. So the relationship is super critical.
Hell yeah, man. And here's the other thing too, in a great organization where things are working well, the talent access team is the hub of an organization.
Yes.
When the leadership recognizes that people are your most important thing, and I'm not saying it in a cliche way, I'm saying it in a real way. Your people are what makes your business. Otherwise,
100%.
if you're making car tires, what makes your car tire better than, that's a bad example because it could be a better car tire, but like the people, right? Like it's a terrible example, but you get what I'm saying here, right? It's like, no. Our people are the difference and we take it seriously. And that starts at the top with leadership, right? And that starts with relationships and it starts with having everyone in sync, talent, finance, the business, leadership, right? You need that CFO to be signing off on that couple extra bucks over the salary band, right? Like you need it. And to make the business case, why?
I think your car tire example is a good one because what makes an organization have better car tires than another is the people in that organization, right? Engineering, designing, right? Building.
They know the differentiation. They need to make it better than that tire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So the people are always going to make whatever it is in that organization operate and function better than another. And so I agree. We at BECU, our vision in TA is we catalyze the growth and transformation at BECU, helping us become the leading financial services cooperative in the nation. And we catalyze the growth. And I've said this to many people in our org that if people are the most important asset in the organization, and we're at the forefront of bringing people into the org, we're the most I'll put this weight on us that the organization rises and falls with how well we can do our work. Right now, there's other aspects of that. We need to help hiring leaders perform better, to engage better, to be better overall. And so, but it starts with us.
I would argue to say, and not just because I'm in the business, you're in the business, that your recruiters and your talent team might be one of the most essential functions of an organization when it ties back to the people. They are the gatekeeper. They are the linchpin. They are the first touch point of any potential new employee into the organization. They're the brand ambassador. They need to know the brand inside and out, be able to tell a compelling story, be able to answer the questions, be able to really dissect the organization.
Yes,
because it's a sales relationship with a candidate, and you got to be good at it. So, folks out there, leadership, invest into your talent teams. Don't rip away listen. If you can outsource it to a great company like NHP Talent Group that we know what we're doing over here. But if you're going to do it, they're your brand ambassadors. Okay, results.
Yeah. So results. I mean, we're constantly focusing
self-explanatory.
on what's important to the business, right? What's important to the business, and we're going to deliver results based on that. We're constantly asking leaders what's important to you. We'll meet with the EVPs in our organization on a regular basis and have the conversation about, what are you focused on this quarter, right? What's important to you? Are you focused on hiring faster? Are you focused on increasing the quality of hire? Are you focusing on, bringing in more diverse hires? What is your focus as a leader? And then we want to then lean toward that. And then we'll measure our results based on what's most important to that leader or to the organization, right? Top line. So as we look at it all. So sometimes, we can look at we call it our team key results. P3 equals 100. We created a formula out of it, right? And some people on my team call it Steve math. But what it is we call it's performance, precision, and partnership. And we want to hit every single one 100% of the time, every single time, right? And so performance is based on our time to submit, sourcers' time to submit when we have a hard to fill requisition, non-exempt roles, time to submit is usually
that's an important metric versus time to fill, because that's just showing how active your sourcing team is and helping them recognize where there might be difficulties and potentially recalibrating if they're missing the mark.
Absolutely.
That's an important one. And then saying, hey, maybe we're off the mark on this. Maybe the market is tight. Maybe X factors, whatever it is. But having a core number on a dashboard that you could look at is critical.
We want to be able to see, are we hitting this number? How are we doing? What do we need to do to check and adjust to make sure we're hitting this number or beating it, right, for the organization? And then the second one is precision, right? Precision is focused on it in the non-exempt space. It's focused on offers or interviews to offer, or interview to offer ratio. In the exempt space, is focused on our hiring manager review to interview ratios.
Love it. We're getting deep here.
We really want to make sure that precision is hitting on the quality of candidates we're presenting to our partners in the business, right? And then our partnership is the third piece, a P3 equals 100, the partnership piece, which is
People
focused on
steal this.
how well we're partnering with the business. And we do that through surveys. We're adding some other aspects, honestly, to make it more ambitious and complex this year. But
Well, just for reference out there, how big is your whole TA team? How many people?
We're about 30
so it's a
people.
decent enterprise, like, mid-enterprise level size team here.
Yeah.
Last one, readiness.
Yeah. So readiness so we're constantly focused on improving our readiness, right? So we're looking at opportunities where we can check and adjust and ensure that we're doing what we can to improve, whether it be our capabilities, our ability to deliver for the organization, process excellence, and innovation on a regular basis, right? So our readiness to deliver the work, to be able to partner across the business, and ensure that we're well positioned to be the catalyst, right, of the growth and transformation in the orgs that we're there.
Loving the math, loving Steve's math, loving the 3 R's here. Let's do another little acronym here. What is your hot take on AI in TA and HR tech? I want to see how many I could get in there.
Man, it's I think it's certainly very disruptive, right? Which is the not take quite yet. But I think we're moving toward, and I know this is something that is going to be more and more prevalent as we go along. I think we're moving toward manager self-service, right? From a standpoint of reviews and things like that, because AI technology will allow managers to be a lot more involved in the review process. It'll be quite interesting. I think we need to make sure from a TA perspective that we're positioning ourselves to be talent advisors, to be partners with the business, because the transactional recruitment can easily be replaced by AI, right? Which is so simple. And I think we could be replaced. Transactional recruitment can be replaced by AI.
But like I'm all for it for the things that are like scheduling, sourcing, and screening, right? If we could find ways to use AI to make our jobs as recruiters more efficient so we can have more of the human time, I'm all for it. The problem is I think we're overutilizing AI to solve a volume problem versus a quality problem.
For sure.
That's where I think we're at right now. And I think that was like the reason for the season, right? Like that was a reason for the tech, right? Oh, we're so overwhelmed. We're going to make it more efficient. We're going to need less recruiters. No. How about we use the good recruiters that we have?
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to lose recruiters. Law of averages. We're going to lose a bottom percentile.
Absolutely.
Who can't keep up, who aren't meant for this. Great.
It's going to be good for our space. It's going to be good for talent.
Yeah, let's up the quality of talent access professionals. Let's get back to being real practitioners in the space. And the practitioners that are going to win are the ones that champion the tech, not to remove themselves from a job, but so they're now more business focused on how they could come to the table to a leadership and say, hey, Steve, I've been messing around with this product X, Y, and Z.ai. Let me tell you what it's done. I've been kind of beta testing it on my own on the weekends. Check out a few of the features here. I think we can incorporate this into our team, and here's how. You show up being business-minded as a TA professional, and you champion that. Now you're adding value, and you're going to future-proof yourself.
Right. And I think we can get there. I think we need to, like you said, I think there is more of a volume focus than there is a quality focus. I think there's some good AI tech out there. I think our market, we're ripe for pirates and people who just want to come in and take advantage of
acquisition,
right? Because they're like, this is a space where people invest a heck of a lot in technology, and
it's emotional on all sides. People are pissed. Yeah,
absolutely. And some TA leaders are over indexing in some situations for AI, to your point, to solve for volume and things like that. And in some places it's necessary, right? Like FedEx uses Paradox now to, tackle all their warehouse sort of positions. I think that makes sense, right? They hire like 400,000 warehouse workers every year. So
UPS uses our sponsor Fountain.
Yes, I'm sorry. UPS uses Fountain.
Please,
right? I'm
yeah,
very well aware of that too. Thank you for that.
Shout out to UPS. Yep, we're gonna take that one off. We're gonna edit that one. I'm kidding. That's a good example.
Cut it out. Carol Tomey, who's the CEO of UPS, phenomenal leader. So exactly. Those sorts of examples, right, that are I think necessary, right, to ensure that those are volume problems and strategic problems for an organization that are being tackled. But I think what we've done what we're doing is we're over indexing toward technology. And we're not really focusing on how we can uplift and build capabilities within our space.
Yeah.
We need to be working toward making ourselves better, building our capabilities, ensuring that we're working better to engage with candidates and partner with leaders so we can really move talent acquisition into the future. We know candidates want to engage with people, right? I'm not sure what the next a couple of generations down, Gen Alpha and the
What's
next
gonna
generation
happen?
from there, how they will feel about human engagement along the way. They may be so comfortable without much human engagement or without speaking to an individual, but we're
Bots on bots,
a couple of
man.
decades
Bots.
away from that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's bring it home here with some fun ones. What's the most unconventional but effective hiring strategy you've seen work? What's the craziest thing you've seen out there? Like, wow, I didn't think in a million years that was gonna work.
That's a good question. Give me an example of something you're because I'm trying to think of
Maybe it
one
was let me kind of prompt it a little bit. If I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe it was an unconventional sourcing. Maybe one of your recruiters said, "Hey, like, maybe you said, how did you find that hard to fill role?" Like, listen, here's what I did, X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z.
You know what? I've got a mentor who he's big on peripheral recruitment and IP targeting, right? Which is used much in the political space, right? To connect with voters and engage voters and try and ensure that people who may be disengaged within one of the two major parties in our country can, become engaged. And so this aspect of peripheral recruitment, which focuses on both IP targeting and then like ad generation and ensuring that people can connect to your brand a lot more, is one of the ways. It may seem a little basic, but it's pretty complex, and I think it's really cool, especially because some of the IP targeting that gets done now can be done through following an individual's device all the way home, seeing tracking where they spend a lot of their time, and then using the IP targeting to then target the individual's potential spouse or whatever. So
right, it's like that halo effect. It's like branding. So when you put on your and I always say a great recruiter is a great marketer, right? Like if you know how to market and you understand the fundamentals of it and the halo effect and how to get messaging out there and how to position and storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most under talked about, underrated skills of a recruiter.
Definitely.
The ability to tell the brand story, man. All right.
Definitely.
You have a mid-level recruiter. This person has showed great aptitude, great attitude. This person has upper management written all over them. What advice would you give that person in TA who's looking to move into leadership to be successful?
I would say, first and foremost, I'm going back to, parts of the 3 R's, right? Like you got to do your job, do it well, right? Continue to do it well, build relationships, but study the business.
Mm-hmm.
Study the business. Like wake up every day, focus on like building your business acumen. One of the things I do every morning is I look at financial news, right? To try and understand more about what's happening in the credit union space and in the financial space. And I've got that advice from one of my mentors who I've carried through, right? And I want to make sure I'm doing. So like studying the business, embedding yourself into the business, and then from now, showing up as a leader, not being a positional leader, waiting for the title to show up as a leader, but being a leader from today, being comfortable giving feedback to the leaders that you work with and partner with, stakeholders across the business, and to your peers, because that'll position and prepare you for what's to come in the future. And by the time you become a positioned leader, then you'll be beyond ready for what that looks like.
Great advice. Everyone out there, hit pause, hit that rewind button, listen back to that one. Steve, funny, it goes back to our pre-chat. What's keeping you up at night these days?
Man, right now, internal mobility is a big focus of ours within the organization. Our CEO said 2025 is the year of internal mobility at BECU, so we're focused on that.
Right. How do we keep and retain and move people around versus always hiring from the outside? Sports analogy too, right?
It is.
Like look at the farm system, look within, right? Like sometimes you need to go out and pick up a player for a certain need. Unless it's Aaron Rodgers, but we'll park. No one needs Aaron Rodgers. No one. He failed with the Jets, and now he's gonna get a ton of money with the Vikings or something. What is this anyway?
Yeah. Just he's following the Brett Favre.
Please, Giants, whatever you do, Giants, do not. And I hope when this airs, probably about 6 weeks from today. Today's March 12th. Hopefully my Twitter doesn't blow up tomorrow, or X, whatever you call it, that the Giants sign Aaron Rodgers. I will be pissed off at this episode, Steve. All right. So what's keeping you up? Like internal mobility.
Be right. Yeah.
Now, is that from a challenge because it's not happening, or it's because there's a lot to take on to make it happen? It's a
lot to take on to make it happen, right? So we've got a lot of different things that we're focused on. We're focused on revamping some internal resources, right? To make the visibility of internal roles more clear to employees, to make pathways more clear for employees. We're working on some lunch and learn sort of sessions that we're really going to encourage employees to, we're going to educate employees on how to navigate the hiring process within our organization. We're doing resume writing lunch and learns, interviewing lunch and learns, personal branding lunch and learns, and these are going to go on for the foreseeable future. So we're going to do we're doing these quarterly in 2025, and then potentially in 26 we may go into monthly. And so it's just really working to educate our employees, help them see opportunities more clearly, to put the cookies on the bottom shelf for them as they talk about like getting to their next role, making everything easier for them to reach out and grab and connect to. And so we've done a pretty decent job in terms of moving talent around the organization. We just need to make it a whole lot more accessible, more clear, and for employees to really feel that we care about
make a comfortable space for them to ask.
Yes.
Right. Like, don't think if I ask to move or ask to get moved up or somewhere lateral, that it's going to be looked down upon, and my manager's going to have it out for me, like vindictive.
Absolutely.
No. Create a comfortable space for it. So Steve, let's bring it home here.
Absolutely.
What is that single greatest piece of career advice that you've ever received that you want to pay forward right now?
Yeah. So I'd say, I mean, for me, one of the things that that's been is really, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again, is really take some time, and whatever business you're in, whatever space you're in, especially for TA folks, like really take some time and focus on learning the business, right? Learning the business inside and out. I think this is a really important thing for TA people. When I was at Lockheed Martin, I remember sitting in meetings with multiple militaries from different countries and being able to listen in on the conversations. And most people in TA wouldn't do things like that, right? They're just sitting around. They're like, why are you in this conversation? Because if I can understand the complexities of how the F-35 is being used and what these different countries feel about, how this is being produced, for their use and all these other things, I can help to set my team up for success as we work to hire employees that are going to be producing this jet and sustaining it. So, and I've used that leverage that I had a mentor who shared that with me many years ago. And so I, really focus on, I have conversation, Adam, with leaders across the business. I remember our CFO, when he first came into the organization here, he told me, my first conversation with him was, hey, I'd love to catch up with you to talk about, your plans for finance and, everything that you're thinking about, your goals, your strategy. And I was like, I don't want to talk talent in our conversation at all. His eyes got pretty big. He's like,
what?
Yeah.
Isn't that your job? Isn't that your job?
Talent can be I was like, it'll be at best secondary. I was like, I would prefer for it to be tertiary. Like we let's push it way down in the conversation. If you never tell me about your talent philosophy or talent, like your hiring goals for the year, I can apply what you told me about the business
exactly
and create a talent strategy.
Spot on. Like, that's such good advice for recruiters, and like, you're like, know the business. Yeah. Understand it, man. This has been a wealth of information. Anyone out there who's in the business, agency side or internal recruiters, this is a masterclass. Steve White, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Connect with Steve on LinkedIn. We're going to link it up in the comments. Where else could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a place. Shoot me a message if you want to talk more. I'd love to connect, but LinkedIn is the best place to find me, and would love to have any conversations with folks, learn from different folks in the space, and then share any information that I have. But Adam, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Steve White in the house, and thank you to our man Evan White. You guys related? You and Evan related?
Yeah,
brothers from another mother. Brothers. Exactly.
Yeah,
shout out to my man Evan White there.
Evan White.
And Steve, has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And everyone out there, if this show meant something to you, leave a review. Rating it goes a long way. Sharing means caring. Hit that share button. Send this to somebody that needs to hear it. Everyone listening, you know where to find out more. Head over to thepodcast.com. Follow us on social media at NHP Talent, YouTube /The Podcast. And remember, subscribe, comment, like, engage. It goes a long way. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.